Hello, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me, IFBB Pro, Robert Waterhouse, and previous DFAC Pro. Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Hey man, how you doing?
Um, Introduce yourself to the few people who are watching this that don't know who you are already.
Cool, will do. So, name's Robert Waterhouse. Most people know me in the bodybuilding world from Instagram as Bob Waterhouse, even though I am Robert to most of my friends.
Yeah.
But Bob or Rob's fine. So I've competed since 2008, which I did my very, very first show, and obviously been bodybuilding ever since. Live and breathe it every single day as normal.
Yeah.
Had some good successes with shows. Obviously won Natural Pro card in 2013, and basically went on to do Worlds in 2016 and 17 and won Lightweight Worlds in Miami. And now I then entered just after lockdown 2022 Bros British Finals, which was an open invitation that year because of COVID, and basically won my class and won the overall to take the pro card. So I then did a pro show the very same year, which was obviously about 3 or 4 weeks after that, and then competed in Tampa. 2021 was my last show, so about a good 18 months off, and going to be competing again this year.
Good, very good resume. Very good resume. For me, I massively respect turning DFAC Pro in the first place. Obviously, I managed to do it, which is again it's my crowning achievement in bodybuilding so far. Obviously, I haven't made my debut yet, so that's obviously respectable enough for a bodybuilder's resume. And then you've taken the extra step and then gone and got a IFBB Pro card. And I remember the post you posted, vaguely just basically saying you didn't expect to turn pro that day, and you kind of just did it to throw your hat in the ring, sort of thing. Let's start there. How did it feel going into that? How did it feel going into that show? Obviously, you said it was an open invitation, and it's like, well, yeah, why not? I'm already in shape. But like, there must have been a part of you that's like, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna compete as hard as I can and see where I end up.
Okay, so I won't give you the polite answer.
Right.
I'll give you what the actual real reason was.
Yeah.
So in 2020, there had been a number of obviously Two Bro Show, which was a fairly new affiliate. It used to be the UK BFF. They used to have the Pro Card affiliate, and then obviously Two Bros come on board.
Yeah.
Now there were guys in the Two Bros who were winning Classic Physique, which I'd obviously done Classic Physique in other federations before. Right. Obviously in like 2013, 2014. Obviously just like open shows, and had really good success with those as well. But going into 2020, we obviously went straight into the lockdown. My original thoughts was, well, like, look, I'm fat as a house already. I've got two options. You can sit on the couch and be even fatter for a lockdown, or you can commit to doing a prep. And obviously the goal was to jump into the Two Bros, because the previous Classic Physique winners that I'd seen, I thought my physique in full peeled shape would be competitive within that lineup. Then obviously I was then going to be going on to doing the British Grand Prix that year, obviously, which was like a few weeks afterwards. So it kind of made sense to do that. Now, obviously, the show did get moved several times with COVID, obviously for the Two Bros one. But between you and I guess people who are watching this, there is a level of self-belief that I've always had with bodybuilding. And I think you do need to have a lot of self-belief. And it wasn't like a cockiness, because obviously if you're going into shows as a natural competing against enhanced guys, but obviously previously I already had done that and done well. So I kind of knew it in my capabilities. But I honestly believe from day one that it was possible for me to win the pro card. Like, I believed it was possible. So when I did my cardio every day, when I did my workouts every day, I thought, like, just what if? I was like, if they judge it based on how Classic Physique was supposed to be judged, so more of a streamlined, prettier physique, a bit of a throwback, then it was always going to make me really competitive if I was in shape. So if I'm kind of 5 to 10% off, like, there's no chance. But if I could just find that, you know, a little bit of level of conditioning, then I would be competitive.
Yeah.
So my thoughts changed, obviously, every single day. I was kind of like, yeah, this is definitely doable. Looking at some of the people who are competing that year, and people say, oh, you shouldn't compare yourselves to others. But I looked at some of the people who I knew were entering the show and thought, like, I'd be quite competitive with those.
Yeah.
So there's a level between like cockiness and confidence, I guess, really. I am always one of those who will kind of put out a level of respect, because like really competing as a natural in an assisted show, you've really got no business unless you're a top level natural.
100%.
Thinking that you can obviously beat these guys. But yeah, self-belief, and I believe that I was like, just possible I could do it. And then when I actually got to the show, my whole perception changed. I was kind of like, we did the very first call outs within the class, which was like class D or whatever it was. And I was like, if I can just make top 5, I'll be really pleased.
Really?
I'll be really happy with that. Like, because obviously everyone pumping up backstage looked mega.
Yes.
Like twice the size as I was. Like, people were taking pictures and stuff with each other, and I was looking at some of the pictures and thinking, wow, like, okay, I'm probably one of the better conditioned guys here, but everyone's like, I mean, like Jimmy Tonk, for example, who competed against me in the overall, was 70 pounds heavier.
Flipping out.
So I mean, yeah, okay, he's 6'5", you know, 6'4", 6'3". But so it was kind of like, look, if I just place top 5, I'm really happy. Got really good call outs, obviously on the day, and obviously I got a few center stages. There was about 15 people in the audience or whatever, and then obviously I got good call outs, and obviously they end up winning my class, and that was kind of like, can't believe I've done that. Like, I'm absolutely like amazed that that's happened, and didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And then obviously then like the overall, like you can probably tell if no one's ever watched the video, I was literally there to have a good time. Like, I was like, no chance of me beating any of these guys on this stage. I'm just so, and that obviously shone through with the confidence, I think. I was just happy to be there and really enjoy myself. I was already a British champion. So it was kind of like, look, cool. So obviously the outcome of that, like, that was actually like, yeah, well, kind of believe that I could do it, but never thought it would actually happen.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Kind of a bit of a fine line of saying, yeah, I definitely had that self-belief. I never told anyone.
Yeah.
Partner, I think at the time, and a close friend, Aaron Bevan, who came to watch the show that day. Right. So it said 15 people, and he was one of the people in the audience. But so that was it, really. So I kept that very much to myself. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel you with that. I think even going into the BNBF shows, or my first show, my nerves were unreal. If it wasn't for Opio basically being there with me the whole time, basically saying, Gene, you're gonna be fine, trust me. Because you don't know, and like you said, you have a respect for the guys you're standing on stage with. You're never gonna sit there and go, I know I'm great, and I'm just gonna go there and clean up. You always have that little thing in your head, like, if this guy has this that maybe I don't have, or this guy's heavier than me, or this guy's this or that. And you're like, if it hits the right light at the right time, he might, you know what I mean? He might beat me, and I'm not really sure. And you always have that.
I remember you doing a little pre-stage posing practice in the disabled toilets, like you do at the at the shows we all go to, try and find a room somewhere to go. I'm not sure if that was the year you won your pro card or the time previously.
I'm not sure. Did I have dreadlocks yet?
You might have done. I remember you wearing orange posing trunks, I think.
2019.
Okay, right. So was that the year you won or not?
No. 2021 I won.
Right, cool.
That's my first year. 2019 was my first year.
Yeah, when I saw you that day, I was like, oh, shit. Right. That's really impressive, because everyone was like, like Opio's got a guy in the show who's supposed to be very good. And then everyone came and had a little gander around. Obviously, I was still one of the pros at the time. And obviously, look at people, and I was like, okay, yeah, like this kid's got something good as well. So that was a very competitive year, I think, wasn't it? But yes, very, very good, mate.
Yeah, 2019, I will admit it was probably my most enjoyable year. Apart from winning my pro card, obviously 2019, it was a really tough prep. Not in terms of prep for me, like the food and all that and how I felt. I felt great. We did 36 weeks, and 33 to 34 weeks, I felt perfectly fine. I felt great the whole time. But 2019, just competing 3 times, winning, and then like battling out with Marcus in particular, because I think Solomon that year was just he'd gone clear. He was a shoe-in to win. But then me and Marcus,
that's why I think I came to have a look. I think I was, and I was, you're instantly worried because you're like, you want to win, right? But it was like, oh yeah, okay, like the guy's good actually. So, but yeah, I think maybe just that little bit of maturity and a little bit of extra mass that you didn't for that year, and I think it would have been a very, very well close match. Did you win your pro card?
Yeah,
fortunately, that year, so that was kind of get him out of the way. But yes, very good, mate, indeed.
Yeah, no, 100%. 2019, I just think, like we were speaking about before we started recording, there's just, you get, when you're young like that, I was 23 at the time. When you're young, and Marcus must have been already at least 30 at the time, I think. Yeah, so there's maturity that I just won't have. I haven't been under the bar long enough. Yes, I've got fresh muscle, but so does Marcus, and he just had more. And that's what Dave said to me. Dave K said to me after, because he was judging, he said, I love your physique. He said, but Marcus just had that little bit extra. And he's like, he said to me, I don't know if I should say this or not. He said to me, he goes, it was a little bit of a joke, obviously. And he was like, if you would turn pro today, because they obviously gave out 2 pro cards, if you would turn pro today, he's like, how long do you think you would have had to take to then be able to stand on stage with me and be competitive? That's what he said. And he said 5 years about competing.
It was the same scenario for me in 2009. Yeah. So I was in 24. I got beat by Baz in the overall, and it was a 10th year anniversary of the BNBF. So basically, they gave out a pro card for each men's weight class.
Oh, nice.
So Baz won his, and I came second. We both went to Worlds, and Doug Miller was in Dave K's class.
Really?
And Cleveland Thomas, you had all the guys, and then the lightweight lineup, like Daz Cooper ended up in the lightweight pros.
Right.
He was one of the lightest lightweight pros. We both said when they list the names off, if Daz Cooper don't win that show, I eat my own head. And he was like, I think he might have made top 5. And the guys were like, it was like, I said to Baz at the time, I am so glad I didn't win my pro card.
Yeah.
Like I was like very small back then compared to obviously kind of like the difference in the physique between like 2009 to 2013. So I always say there's actually a bit of advice that I think Dave K would give to a few people was enjoy your amateur years as long as you can.
That's what he said.
Because the pro class is always a different story no matter what level you go to. So whether it's me going to IFBB Pro shows, whether it's, people obviously like rocking up and kind of like you work so hard to get the pro and you go from the best bodybuilder in the world, like you feel like, and then to the worst one because then you're the new pro, unless you're some kind of freak like Chris McCready or Nathan. Do you know what I mean? So you're going to always be starting from scratch again. So it's a good thing for you.
No, 100%. And he gave me good advice that day. And I'm happy he gave me that advice. Obviously, the way I am, I say obviously, a lot of people don't know because I don't really talk about my mentality behind bodybuilding, but I went into my next off season like, I'm not waiting 5 years to win my pro card. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm getting it the next time I stand on stage, and that's exactly what happened. But man, yeah, bodybuilding is like that. You're the best one day, and then you're just part of the numbers the next day. And you just, again, there's mental toughness that comes with bodybuilding throughout the entire journey. Off season to ignore fatty food and say, "Oh, I'm off season, it's fine," or prep when you got to miss out on social events, or competing when you don't get the placing you want, you got to go back and work and come back again. It's all just mental toughness, really. Right. So, obviously I've had you on Instagram for a very long time since I met you basically in 2019. I've seen since you turned IFBB Pro, you're traveling, you're in Dubai, you're training with IFBB Pros, you're with Gasp, you're Destination Dallas and all this stuff. Like, how has your bodybuilding, because I know your job before, I don't really know what your occupation is at the moment, but I know your job before, when we spoke last time, was a lot of traveling anyway.
Of course.
But how has your lifestyle changed since turning IFBB Pro in terms of, does it feed more into your bodybuilding lifestyle so it's easier now to bodybuild and stuff? And yeah, how has it changed?
So one or two things. So yeah, basically, I started work for Creative Fitness Marketing, which is a gym marketing company. They've been running for over 25 years. they're the most successful at it in the whole industry with actually promoting health clubs. So the dynamics of that, of how it works, is that basically you go into a gym on day one, you are there for 6 weeks, you're trying to market that company to get new members for your health club. So you are living on the road with regards to there could be in Scotland, you could be in Wales, could be in Ireland, wherever your base is in the UK. You're traveling to work on a Monday. Might be a 5-hour trip to work on a Monday. It might be a 1-hour trip, like I'm working in Newcastle at the moment. Basically, so from day dot, from when I kind of like, so this was 2011. So I'd done 2008, 9, and 10 bodybuilding, living in my parents' house, going to the gym every day where I train them. So that was a big transition at that time to get used to taking a mobile kitchen with you, whether it be warming your air fryer, your rice cookers, whatever. And obviously trying to, find your feet with how to basically manage travel so much. So basically, like now, obviously with the success of winning a pro card and going on to Fuad's public podcast, which podcast, that kind of like gave me a massive trajectory in online coaching clients. So obviously that did pick up from kind of anywhere in the region of, I probably had about 10 to 15 guys on previously who were probably 99% of those were all bodybuilders for shows. I then took on more lifestyle clients, and basically kind of my client base went from in that year from about 15 to about 100 by the end of that year. So mind you, so it took me about a year to get obviously that amount of people. Now, I don't coach that many people now because it was too much. So it was kind of understanding like, look, bodybuilding's still my priority. Coaching is a top priority, but to do it well, you have to have less clients. So I sit anywhere between 60 and 70 on a normal week now. So it's 10 check-ins a day, 7 days a week. But I also still I dip in and out of the marketing company that I work for. So fortunately, the hours for that job are 10 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. So I train in the morning. I often take a little bit of a lunch break and I'll do some check-ins during the day. And then I will work from kind of 8 in the evening till 12 o'clock at night or so. Most nights through the week. But I've already done like 3 promotions this year. So I won't do any more after this next 2 weeks. And then I'm going to be out of the country in the US with shows and stuff till September. So it's a really good opportunity, and it's not to be greedy, but basically it will work where I will pay myself for that job that I'm doing at the end of the promotion, rather than take like a weekly wage. So when you are traveling, obviously to the US and Dubai and all that kind of stuff, it becomes very costly. So it might be like, £500 a week to hire a car. So it's like, you need to have that, capital there to be able to do that stuff. So that's the reason why I do both jobs, because it's like, it still caters for bodybuilding. I still get all my stuff done. Job is very flexible where I can eat and stuff when I need to. And then the rest of the time, obviously, like probably through the end of 2020 to 2021, towards the end of that, and didn't do a promotion till December. So basically, I had probably about 18 months of just online coaching full time. So basically, to go back to the question, from day dot, I'd already been well used to traveling. But I would say really that, as I said, bodybuilding is my top priority. I still want to coach to be able to obviously, fund the bodybuilding side. I actually love coaching as well. Like I obviously get really big rewards out of that. But all I would say is it wasn't really a difficult transition. I think other people would find it difficult with traveling so much. Some people go away for a weekend and stay in a hotel and have a meltdown about how much stuff they need. But for me, it's like, we traveled from Dubai to Mexico to Costa Rica to Miami. I went to Valencia, back to Miami. Then all the way through the US, right way through to Texas, and then over to back to Dubai again. Like I never missed a day of training that wasn't scheduled to be done. Count on one hand how many meals I missed over that 18-month period. So it's like I always did. Like I might have had to do 5 meals a day instead of 6 or 7. Calories might have been slightly higher over their meals, but like I basically didn't miss a beat, if I'm quite honest. Like that's something I handled very well, I think.
I think the young guys need to hear that because don't get me wrong, there are young guys at the gym I'm at now who are their heads very screwed on. They know exactly what they need to do. They work and they make time for it. I have always, obviously, I'm a natural bodybuilder. It's not very lucrative, as you're aware. So I obviously have my day job. I got to handle all my stuff. If work runs late, I can't be like, no, I got bodybuilding to do. It's like, no, I got to do that, and then I have to go bodybuild after. You can't just push it to the side. So the young guys need to hear that even though you're an IFBB Pro, even though you've got notoriety, even though you're recognized by decent companies like Gasp, you still need that foundation. You need that foundation of hard work throughout. Being an athlete in general, like I was football before I was bodybuilding. Big time football. Like I've got a cousin who's professional. I've got friends who are professional, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, big time football. And that was my goal. They retire before they're 40. You need something after that. Not everyone can be Harry Kane and Kevin De Bruyne and get paid so much money that you can just retire and then sit there. You have to have something after. And you obviously have a foundation of online coaching clients, this, that. So when you retire from bodybuilding and you say, right, the traveling expenses have gone down dramatically, so I don't need all of this income, then you can say, cool, I'll just coach. Because people respect me, what I do. I have a good track record of my CV throughout competing, of people placing well. I know at least Marcus, for example, you have a DFAC Pro on your register already, which is, as a lightweight, is very difficult to accomplish, to get a lightweight to win a pro card. And he did it in a very strong lineup, if I do say so myself. So, you know what I mean? You've got a good track record behind you. So it's important for the young guys to hear. And this is why I like having guys like you on, not just guys who are successful. It's not about that. It's how did you gain that success? I can speak to a 20-year-old who's just a phenom. When they sit here with me and I say, oh, how hard is it for you to do this and do that? They're like, oh, no, I can have a burger. I just don't put on weight. That's not valuable to anybody. It's just they're genetically gifted to do that. That's not, you know what I mean?
It doesn't teach the masses really about anything because you've got like your Chris McCready's and obviously you caveat with like the guy trains extremely, is built for lifting and does absolutely everything to the textbook, from whether it's going to bed on time and eating all his meals. But for the majority of the people, you have to work very, very hard in order to basically gain kind of any kind of level of kind of, muscle tissue, really. I mean, I'm always most impressed with clients, people like I have, like Chris Edge, when, they sent me these Edgy on the Pro Edge, Prodigy or Pro Edgy on Instagram. But basically, his very first check-in pictures he'd sent me when I first started working with him, I actually said, what the fuck am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
But like, it just looked fucking nothing. Like small legs, small arms, terrible body composition.
Yeah.
It was like, do you know what I mean? So it was like, right. And then like the guy then got to the British finals in the year that we worked together. He then placed top 5 at the British finals. And then he then went on to place top 2 at the British finals as a lightweight. Like, that is an incredible jump from someone who looks like absolute nothing and has grafted for every single pound that he's put on a muscle, doing everything as he's supposed to be doing it. So like those kind of things, speaks volumes, I think, from not to blow my own trumpet with coaching side of things, but it's like, look, you can take the really gifted people. I mean, I think for a majority of, well, not majority of the DFAC pros, but a majority of the good bodybuilders, it's like, you can get really someone who kind of half knows what they're doing with their diet and they're going to look pretty decent.
Yeah.
I mean, like an OPO was a really good example. He looked really good still when he was just kind of like not really knowing what he was doing.
Yeah.
Hold of him and it was like, oh shit, that's the game changer.
Yes.
So it's kind of, look, I mean, like I said, like he got like a ton of muscle, looks really good, great shape, but it's just like he never really put it all together until he kind of had the right help. So it's kind of like, a guy would have looked good regardless, right? But yeah, I mean, I would say, just to kind of go back to the question without rambling on, about kind of like work ethic side of things. I forever and a day in my 20s was, my mentality towards life was do as little as possible and get paid for it.
Really?
It was, yeah. Like, I mean, literally it was like, well, like where, that was like kind of how we were at college. It was kind of how, like, it's like, I'll do what I'm sort of asked to do. Like if it was like where I was working in the gym, like look, I still did my cleaning and stuff every day and things like that. But then when I then started at my new role, it was like, well, like look, I'm fucking getting a paycheck here, getting paid £500 a week to basically just like do a bit of work, and it's like, oh, I'll do less and less and less and less and less, and it was like, you know, it was a bit of a rude awakening around 2013. I actually got a demotion from work.
Really?
Had a really bad fallout with a club owner, had done a lot of bad things as far as like not being asked to do what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And the guy was an absolute arsehole as well, so that was a whole nother story. But it was a real like rude awakening of like, you can't just fucking mosey on in life.
Yeah.
With regards to like, obviously I've focused all my efforts on bodybuilding, not a lot on work. And I got absolutely, you know, like punished for it, really. And that was a really kind of thing of like, now it's like I work 7 days a week now. I work 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Sure enough to realize, like, look, if you want to have nicer things and you want a nicer lifestyle, if you want to go live in Dubai, it doesn't just get handed to you because you're a good bodybuilder. It gets, so you have to do all that other stuff as well. So my mentality has changed an awful lot. I mean, I say, like, don't get me wrong, like, look, I'm not the most hardest grafting person ever, but I was under the understanding, like, I don't miss a day of doing work. Like, I have to do a day's work, whereas I'm so far behind that I just can't catch up. So it's like, if I have to get up at 5 a.m. to do check-ins, I'll get up at 5 a.m. to do check-ins. It's like, you know, leave my missus in bed and I'll go and do work. It's like, whereas I would have never have been me in my 20s. It would be like, right, you've got to be at work at 9 o'clock, you get up at 5:02 and then quickly do, it'd be 5 minutes late for work. And that was my mentality, to be honest with you.
Well, it's, again, you were young. It's excusable for a certain amount of time. It's about learning from things. People have different beginnings, don't they? And I just think, like I say, it's about learning. It's about learning from it. I was a grafter from quite young, more so because I had to be, and it's just carried on really well for me since. I don't have a ton of things. It's not really about the material, but like just the things I accomplish, and when I set my mind to do something, I make sure I do it. It's just, and it's second nature. I've never had to beat myself up to do something. When it comes to prep, Opio, I say it all the time. Opio asks me to jump, I say how high. There's no questioning. There's no nothing. I trust that he knows what he's doing, number one. Otherwise, I couldn't do that, obviously. I need to believe that you know what you're doing. But if he says, Gene, you need to work harder, and I think I'm putting in 100%, I rejig my memory. I rejig my mindset and go, I must be doing 90%. I'll do more. That's just how I am.
I think that like bodybuilding lays a lot of foundation for that, though. But I never get the balance between carrying that level of work ethic over to work.
Right.
But mine was like, look, I did absolutely everything bodybuilding wise. Do you know what I mean? I lived and breathed it, as I still do today. But my other mentality was kind of like, well, like, look, let's not walk to the shops to hand these leaflets out that I'm supposed to do because I don't want to burn too many calories.
Yeah.
Kind of pot on size. So it's like the stupid thing that you kind of believe when you're younger, of like, oh, like, too much cardio, and like, oh, like I can't go here because I might miss a meal. So it's like my life revolved around more being good for bodybuilding and not good for work.
Yes.
Realize if you can apply that work ethic like you do so well to bodybuilding, if you do that to something else, then obviously then that work stuff will become more successful, which allows you to obviously then be better at bodybuilding because you've got more money to spend on supplements, more money for an expensive gym membership, all that kind of stuff. It's like it gives you good options.
But again, you were young, and to think of it like that, you don't think of it like that at the time, obviously, and you've clearly come a very long way. You've come further than most people are ever going to go. But you don't think of it like that when you're young. I was fortunate in my mindset to have that mindset from an early age. Like I worked in my first job, I was 16. I dropped out of, I was very much football orientated. I dropped out of college where I was doing a football course and coaching course. And I was going to try and kick on and be a physiotherapist while trying to be a football player. And that was my whole thing. I got 2 really bad injuries 1 year after the other, and that was it for me. So I decided, you know what, I got life. Life is still going on behind me. It's not all about football. I need to do something else. So I work hard. And my first job, I dropped out of college at 16 to do care for adults with learning disabilities. I stayed there for 2 years. That was shift work. Now I was making good money. I moved out when I was 16 with my missus, and we like I got to a point where bodybuilding started to creep in. No, sorry, I'm lying. Football, sorry. And I was like, right, I'm still chasing this whole football thing, but I can't be at college because I need the money. And I quit that job because I needed to go get a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 because I needed something where the structure allowed me to have more predictability in my day to day. And I went from that, and then I got injured, and the second injury, and decided, you know what, this ain't for me. I'm gonna do something else. Didn't realize it would be bodybuilding at that time. But everything I did, it was set up for like extracurricular stuff. Because in my mind, like you said, exactly the opposite of what you said almost. Again, I was about 20, I was 22 when I started training. So yes, I was 22 when I started training. I'm 28 now. And I looked at my life and said, right, bodybuilding's expensive. I realized that immediately, especially in the off season, because coaching fees is one thing, but you eat, well, if you eat like I used to eat like an idiot, you eat half what you eat in the off season. So you're saving so much money. It's like, yeah, this is great. So my off seasons, I'm sitting there going, I'm spending maybe 350 pounds on food for just me because I'm having cheat meals thinking that's okay, and burgers and this and that. That's obviously expensive. If I was buying the real food that I should be eating, then it's not obviously as expensive. But I was young, I didn't know yet. I didn't have a coach or anything at the time. And long story short, I got to a point where I was like, right, if I work really hard in my 9 to 5, not only do I have the money, but hopefully I gain the trust of my employers to be able to support when I can't do something. And that's exactly what it's like now. At the beginning of the year, my manager now, he's like, I work from home now, more or less, all the time. And my manager messaged me and he was like, oh, are you competing this year? And I was like, no, it's fine. You got me for another year where I'm going to do the extra shifts and the late nights. And I think between what we in now, between June and maybe November last year, I think I've been to Amsterdam for work like 8 times. Never been there for, never been there like a week at a time. Never been there for social stuff, but I go there for work all the time, or Ireland or whatever, Germany, France, all this stuff. And they know now because I've earned my stripes here and I work hard. And it's like, if I say to them, right, I've got gym and I need to be there at 6, can we push this meeting either earlier? Can we pull it earlier, or can we do it tomorrow? Yeah. They know I'm not taking the piss. They know that when I've not got other stuff going on, I'm 100% there. And I just think, again, it's another lesson that these young guys need to learn. You might be hot property on Instagram. You might be great on stage. You might be a good athlete. But when you move out of your parents' house, whenever that may be, you need a plan B. You need a plan B. And if you were to get, again, touch wood, God forbid, if either of us were to get injured tomorrow, we're not solely relying on bodybuilding to make our living and to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
And I just think these young guys need to know that, because, and young guys, young girls, whatever, they need to know that, because it's all well and good. People ask me all the time, and oh, Gene, how do you work? I don't do what you do. You're traveling all the time. My work is quite predictable. Hence the reason I do it. And even the young guys even still can't really get into their mind that that's something that you just have to do. Unless you're Phil Heath and you come in as a phenom and you're getting just sponsorships thrown at you, I don't see how you think you're going to live your life without any passive income or even just a job. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me.
You can get so far at that age with, like, you know, for the first few years of bodybuilding, you know, my wage packet from Feel Good Fitness was like £900 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, that I had to pay my board, my bodybuilding, and going out every single weekend with my friends.
Yeah.
So it didn't ever get me very far, but I was kind of like, oh, like, you know, it's just what it is. But it's like, you know, it was one of them times. It was like, it's purposeful for that period of being living at home. And I said, if you want more opportunities to go and do other things.
Yeah.
I mean, even bodybuilding shows to enter these days more expensive. Not a lot of the natural federations, to be honest, but definitely other ones can be. Time you've done your tan, time you've done your trunks, that stuff. It can be a fairly costly adventure.
That's the thing. I did UK DFBA, my first ever show, and obviously I paid for the tan. And I was just kind of like, because they spray tan you, and you can do your own, I guess, but I was like, I want to look good. I want to look the best. Like, I want to look the best I can to get a professional to do it. And yeah, I'm seeing people really run the circuit, and I'm like, that's a lot of money you're chalking up there for shows. And again, in the natural game, there's not much money at the end of it. Obviously, as an amateur, there's none. But unless you're sponsored, maybe, unless you're again great on social media and you get a sponsor while you're doing it, fine. But generally speaking, you're not getting prize money as an amateur, obviously, and as a pro, even how many times are you really going to compete? Even guys who are great like Dave, Nate, they don't compete every year. They don't compete multiple times a year. Even when they do compete, they do one show and that's it. Obviously, Nate has a massive social media following.
Yeah.
So I'm sure. Well, yeah, I know for a fact he's obviously making a living doing this stuff. But I'm sure he PTs and all that kind of stuff as well. And
like I know for a fact he still loves doing in-person stuff, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. So generally speaking, obviously it can work out, but it's very specific. It's very specific. Sorry. I'm on my work laptop, so I'm getting work emails, and my brain is doing two things at once. So moving on to more of like, I don't know, what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy doing? So I know, obviously,
bodybuilding.
yeah, I know you like your cigars. I know you like your cigars, and I know that's depending on how you are, it's also like a collector's hobby as well. You can go and get great cigars from this place, that place, different price ranges, and sometimes you just never smoke them. You just sit them there, and you're like, I've got these great. Is that so? Are you heavily into it like that, or is it just a pastime? Because I know you had I'm going way back now, but I remember you were posting things just about having not like a den, I don't think, but you had like a space that you would
Yeah, I was allowed one corner in a house,
basically where you would just dedicate to that.
It was whiskeys and cigars, really. But I mean, no, I mean, I would say that I'm not. I'm no, what should we say, like an aficionado.
Yeah.
Right. Basically, cigars have gone up, if not double, triple at the moment.
Right.
Just to put it into perspective, so basically, without boring everybody about it, a lot of the Chinese have invested and bought into some of the Cuban factories.
Right.
And they're buying up an awful lot of stock. So basically, if you've got like aged tobacco and you can only have so much of it, say with whiskies or whatever, like let's say you've got a 15-year-old Dalmore, for example, like, you know, you can't make more of that until time passes, right?
Yes.
So what's happened is like Monte Cristo #2, for example, which was like my favorite smoke forever, always used to be around about 18 to 20 pounds. That is now a 45 to 50 pound smoke. So obviously a cigar, it might take you 2.5 hours to smoke it, kind of thing. So I definitely don't have as many in the humidor as I used to have. But when you go to the US, obviously because of the embargo, you don't have trade with Cuba through the US. So basically what families did is they all went over to Dominican Republic and Nicaragua and set up their own factories there.
Right.
So you buy a Monte Cristo, which comes from Dominican Republic, for like $10, and it's just as good. Right. So US now, I have a friend who smokes cigars, so I will buy £500 worth of cigars, for example, and I'll bring them back, and they'll sit in the humidor until I go to the US again, pretty much.
Yes, yeah.
So I wouldn't say I'm any kind of cigar nerd by any means. It's something I love it on prep. I like to have like a smoke a week if I get the time. The UK is a problem though, because it's always shitty weather. So unless you've got somewhere to smoke, which is kind of going to be an enjoyable factor.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like in Dubai, there's loads of cigar lounges.
Yeah.
Everyone's warm. So you can go out and like go to the Wednesday night. I would be like on prep, go down, sit and have a decaf coffee and a cigar on Wednesday night as a rest day. And that would be like, I'm quite happy with just having a little bit of time to myself, right? Where I'm obviously coaching work and all that kind of stuff. So there's that. But no, quite honestly, I am. I mean, obviously, I love to travel now. You know, previously, back in the day when I was younger, I had no ambitions to want to leave my hometown, really.
Yeah.
Other than going on like a stag do or a boys' holiday to Ibiza, right? So that was kind of how it always was. But I definitely like to go and experience different places. I love the US. I like to eat out when I'm there as well. Obviously, that's one thing that we really enjoy to do. Until you're at the arse end of off season where you don't want to eat anything. You're basically sick of food, sick of eating your meals and sitting like you like the idea of having an off-plan meal and then you go out, take one bite of it, you're like, oh, just
don't want it. Yeah.
If anyone's ever pushed food to a point like that as well, they'll know where I'm coming from. It's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, like no appetite to want to come and eat that stuff. But really, mate, honestly, I am quite still a bodybuilding nerd. I mean, I still follow all the bodybuilding stuff on YouTube. So it would be Nick Strength and Power, Fuad's podcast.
Yeah.
I enjoy learning about bodybuilding. I still enjoy learning about all, like, not so much dietary stuff, but more with regards to supplementation and training. That's definitely a thing. Obviously, trying to find the sort of new things that come through with supplementation and stuff for clients and things that would help people and stuff like that. But yes, I would say that, like I said, that's still the majority of kind of the things that I enjoy to do. Like, I still love being in the gym every day.
Yeah.
So yes, I have other hobbies and stuff, and I have a circle of friends who I grew up with through school who are non-bodybuilders.
Yeah. So
we have other interests with that kind of stuff. But really, yeah, my life is still kind of very much with obviously coaching clients and bodybuilding, and I'm quite happy about it as well. Like it's like not,
listen,
you know, like
if you can do what you love to do every day.
Exactly. You know, it's like, you know, it's not like I ever wake up and be like, I just don't want to bodybuild today. It's just, So
No.
that's me, that really.
You said you started bodybuilding when you were about 20 in college, you say?
22, I did my first show.
Yeah.
First set foot in the gym when I was 14.
So you're one of the few people that I've spoken to who have been literally bodybuilding the whole time. Most of us, even when I speak to Opio, he says the same thing on the podcast that we did, on the episode that we did. Like, most of us are ex-athletes doing something else. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's rowing, football, rugby, whatever. And then we either through injury or just time, we just fall into bodybuilding because the gym is like the natural progression if you want to stay fit. And then, you know what I mean? So you're one of the few people I've spoken to who are bodybuilding from day one.
Well, I did, but I also, I mean, I stepped foot in the gym because I was at professional football clubs.
Oh, right.
I was at Oxford United for 7 years.
Oh, flipping hell.
I got released right at the end. They only took 2 people on. One of them was Blackstock, if you know Dexter.
From memory.
Knox Forest. And another guy who didn't really do much, I don't think. But basically, there was 18 of us. They took 2 on, so no one was really kind of good enough.
Yeah.
And then I went to trial at Southampton. I was there for about 6 weeks, I think, and then I also got a trial at Arsenal. Didn't get there, and then I was going to play semi-pro for a year, and it was like, I don't want to do football anymore. And at the time, going through a torn hamstring injury, and that's when I started to do more stuff in the gym.
Yeah,
I had bad ankles. Obviously, I used to roll my ankles in football all the time. And then my idea was I used to do athletics in the off season, so I was a national level sprinter as well.
Oh shit!
So yeah, so I still actually got my school records.
Really?
With 200 and triple jump. Yeah, so I was still definitely a bit of an athlete. And so like I was like 11.2 for the 100 meters at like 14, 15.
That's good.
So I was super quick. But then basically when I fell out of obviously knowing that I wasn't going to get a pro contract, I absolutely hated being a schoolboy as well at the pro football clubs as like a scholar. So you become trying to scholarship. It was absolutely, like I got bullied every day. It was a rubbish experience.
Right.
A lot of love for football, so I think I was already kind of affected my game and my mentality.
Yeah,
I mean, first time in my life I'd ever kind of experienced like a bit of bullying. Do you know what I mean? I was like always the popular kid at school, and kind of like was probably the bully myself, I guess. Really, I wasn't, but basically, yeah, it's like you know, that was kind of obviously then what stepped me foot into the gym. My dad used to follow bodybuilding when he was younger. So he had all the setup in the garage, and I was always too young to be able to go and weight train. So the first opportunity that I could do it, I used to go to the multi gym at lunchtime at school. They let me have the keys to go and train with me and another friend. It was like full body like weight training circuits. And then obviously I joined the gym at 40 to coincide to get bigger and stronger for football. And obviously my legs ballooned, and like obviously my sort of strength got really good.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew that I was already kind of enjoying that side of things. So then I had kind of 7 years of weight training, really, where I didn't really take much time off. I still went to the gym 3 or 4 days a week until I actually show. So that's a lot of people don't really have. They don't really have that kind of time at that age.
No, 100%. Obviously I'm big into football, and I've only ever had one trial, and it was at Reading. And then I was supposed to go to Aldershot, and I didn't go. But yeah, I was massively into football, and that was like my whole thing when I was younger, man. All my family are all football. And you fast forward to me being 22, and I said to my family basically, well, I blew up first because I've got 3 brothers, and then I've got 4 cousins, 2 boys, 2 girls, who are basically brothers and sisters to me. We all grew up really, really close. So but I'm a busy guy, and I don't message people really, and I go about my business, and then 8 weeks later I'll message people saying, oh, we should link up and go to get something to eat or something. So they see me 8 to 10 weeks after, like after I started the gym, and they saw me and they're like, you're a lot bigger. Are you still playing football? I'm like, nah, I kind of given that up. They're like, what are you doing now? I'm like, I'm just gonna get big. I didn't know you could bodybuild naturally either. I used to think Ronnie Coleman was natural in my first year. I had no idea that you're allowed to take steroids and do this.
I think that because I said it's just not something that's talked about. So
no,
like Flex was putting Ronnie's cycle. They were putting his 10 meals a day of chicken and potatoes and protein shakes, that. And Saltec, you believe that's how they all got so big. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So at the time, I laugh about it now, obviously, but at the time, it's like they're allowed to take steroids and then stand on stage. That doesn't make sense to me. But if everyone's doing it, it's not cheating, is it? So I went from them. They see me, they're like, okay. And then 10 weeks later, 15 weeks later, like I've got people who I used to play football with seeing me, and they're like, are you on steroids? I'm like, no, I just go to the gym now and lift and blah blah. And I was really small before, so it was a very dramatic change. I was really like lean, really football. Yeah, I was all about football. So yeah, and they see me and they're like flipping out, and like, so what are you gonna do then? And at this time I researched more into natural bodybuilding and stuff. I'm like, I think I'm gonna compete. I'm like, doing what? Like lifting weights? I'm like, no, it's more about how you look, blah blah blah. Explain bodybuilding to them. And again, my family were very, very supportive anyway. And they're just kind of like, they didn't understand it, but they were like, okay. And then they didn't see me all 2019. They didn't go to any of my shows because they're all busy. And it was Perth as well, the finals, and that's long. From Reading to there, I think Opia drove, it was like 8 hours or something. It was crazy. So they didn't come up for that. The first time they saw me was 2021 when I won my pro card in person. That's the first time. Actually, no, I'm lying. Sorry. They saw me at the UK DFBA, my first ever show, but obviously I was a lot smaller then.
Yeah.
Obviously I won still, but I was a lot smaller then. But most of them came 2021. And I think that's the first time that they really realized, like, oh fuck, this is
something here, yeah.
Yeah,
I think a lot. I mean, my obviously dad followed bodybuilding, so he was kind of always keen to come watch his shows, things like that. But I think there's a fine line, isn't there? Where it's like everyone kind of believes in this day and age, the younger generation, that they're going to be a TikTok star, a YouTuber, or a professional athlete at something.
Yes.
But a lot of the time now, I think as well, like when actually like maybe parents come see someone do a show, and the person is pretty, you maybe then start to understand that, I'm quite proud of him, and then obviously that's quite a massive achievement.
Yeah.
So sometimes it kind of takes them to get them over the line like that, really, to kind of see it in person, because it's it's one of those things.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just not something I didn't even know about it. So I knew about it because I was in the gym more often, and people would come up to me as they came. I'm sure they came up to you and everyone else who looks decent, and you should compete, you should compete, you should compete. So I'm like, competing what? Don't know, blah blah blah. So I didn't know. So I didn't expect them to know. And like I said, they're always very supportive anyway. They don't, you know what I mean? They're just like, oh, okay, let's see what happens kind of thing. They didn't really get it. And when I told them I won in 2019, I'd won all my shows. They're kind of like, oh, okay, so what are you going to do next? I'm like, go again. Take a year off, get bigger, go again. And yeah, 2021, obviously my second competitive year, and turning pro, seeing that, having them see me turn pro as well, like, it was a big deal to me. Like I'm not an emotional person really, but like it was a very big deal for me to have people there other than obviously Opio was always there. Me and them are boys, not just coaches and whatever, coach and client. And then obviously my wife is always there every show, all the time. So yeah, but having extra people there who didn't quite understand the sport, but seeing me there, and my cousin who's a professional, he plays for Brentford at the moment. He just seeing him see me and like see another sport at a high level and go, fucking hell, that's special. Like that's good. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. And I think the thing that the reason I bring this up is because the young guys as well, they're just so quick to jump to steroids. You're 19, you haven't lifted a weight, and you're already talking about it. There's pride in being a good natural. It's not always about how famous can I get and how many people can know me. There's pride in the work you do.
Yeah.
I just think they just need to just slow your roll a little bit. Slow your roll a little bit. 2019, I'll be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit upset that I didn't turn pro my first year. But it was my first year. So like to think yourself, I'm basically gonna be recognized as this federation, which I believe is the best natural federation in the world. That I'm gonna be recognized by this federation as professional level my first year at 23 years old. I'm sure it might have happened before, I don't know. But no, it's not normal for that to happen.
So the main problem, I guess, that we have in today's age, I don't want to sound like an old moaning guy, but basically it's like obviously everybody wants everything yesterday.
Yeah.
So the problem is with natural bodybuilding, obviously the fact that like for me to obviously bodybuild for so long, be like, oh, what routines are you doing, how much food are you eating? Is like, okay, like how much muscle can you put on, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, but I've been training 20 years to look like I look.
Yeah.
So it's like 20 years, like wow, like 20 years of graft, and it's like and that's doing things and say like at a pretty good level with regards to adherence to the plan. Yes. If you from day dot, it might not have been the most optimal way when I started it because it was kind of you may be eating 4 meals a day of some sort of protein and carbohydrates and what your mum's made for dinner. But you sort of would taking protein shakes and you were going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week kind of thing. But I feel like, as I said, what I don't think people understand is it's all very well wanting to cross over, but the problem is that you've got to look at the longevity side of things. So you've got a certain level of people in the IFBB that you can probably see maybe didn't start using steroids when they were kind of 18.
Yes.
Because they have a good level of muscle maturity. They have a good level of muscle separation. And the more exposure time that you have, the worse your body is going to look to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Like even from the simple things, if the more people use, the more people have actually got to like put that gear into their body. So when you look at some people's shoulders, for example, and there is not a fine line of detail in it because it is just scar tissue on scar tissue with loads of muscle, it's as I said, like you have to then contend with that, and obviously the massive health ramifications that you're going to get. It's all not sort of clear cut and dry. Obviously, everybody responds differently. Obviously you've got to people who should be doing things like blood work and stuff, they're going to do that, but the problem is that starting at 19 you haven't done anything. You've got no foundation, you've not even how should we say, like your bones are only just starting to harden and you've not reached your peak of your normal natural testosterone production. I would probably say that my best years of bodybuilding was probably in my late 20s to early 30s of when I actually started to transform in from a boy to a man.
That's what I'm feeling now.
Right. So you're starting to get that level of maturity that you just didn't understand what that was when you're 20. And yes, you can fast forward that kind of size side of things, but it can't give you time in the gym. It's like something that's been like tailored, like made over a period of time, slowly but surely. So you're building all them nice little layers of muscle fibers on your body over a period of time. So it all goes down, it all lays down really nice. When you pack on a ton of muscle, let's say someone puts 20, 30 pounds on in a year, it don't look the same.
It doesn't.
And you will find that, yes, there will be, very, very sort of inflamed quite quickly and things like that, and gain a ton of size, gain a ton of strength. But it doesn't look the same as the guys who've got like that level of muscle maturity, So it's like you can't rush that, and unfortunately, you might be able to put the size on, but it won't be this. It's not the same thing. So it's kind of like it's more than a big decision to make. You can't just basically just throw a few orals in and be like, oh, like this is good. I'm just like, you've done that then. Now, you basically then can't go back to natural bodybuilding for 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And obviously, as I said, it's like, you see, I hear so many people who kind of like done one cycle of something. This is like previous clients, and realize that they made a mistake, realize that it wasn't just you drop a little bit of something and all of a sudden you explode. Like, it doesn't work that way. Otherwise, every gym idiot who you see who is taking a big year would usually look like Olympia, but that just doesn't. Okay, you probably look worse than most natural bodybuilders at that.
100%. 100%. I say it all the time. You can tell the guys with the big delts and small everything else, you're pinning, and you're not doing you're not using the fundamentals of diet, training, all the rest of it. You think you're going to pin? It's light and harsh. Yeah, you're just going to pin and blow up and be this fucking phenomenal bodybuilder. It doesn't work that way. A living example, in my opinion, of what you say about packing on a lot of muscle in a certain period of time and then maturing after the work's done. It doesn't is 2 guys, actually. Big Ramy. Big Ramy didn't start winning later because he was bigger. He started winning later because he had that polish on his physique. He got deeper lines, deeper separation, grainier look. That's why he won as Olympias. Because I've seen pictures of him from then to 20, I think it was like 14, 15-ish. His shape, in my opinion, anyway, his muscles popped a lot better when he was younger against Phil Heath and these other guys. But he didn't have the maturity them guys had. He didn't have that grainy nature. He looks a little bit older in his physique now, but he gained so much from having the separation, the graininess, the maturity to his physique. That's why he won when he won, in my opinion.
Definitely, I agree. I think it was 2013 he came on the scene like New York Pro and looked absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
But obviously then you had people like Phil Heath and stuff to contend with who had all the polish, the way the skin sticks, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, in a nutshell, really, like, it should be a 6th gear, not a crutch, to take you to actually get 10 pound of muscle.
100%.
To be the absolute last thing you've done when you have maximized 4 years, bearing in mind, sleep, your nutrition, your training with obviously hard training intensity, and basically like living the bodybuilding kind of in your bubble, if you like, for a period of time. Yeah. Because no amount of gear and stuff is going to just like fast track you that far forward without kind of like, a lot of repercussions from it. So really, that it should be kind of like the last thing that somebody does, and not kind of like what their physique foundation is built on.
Yeah.
Because that will be a very, very short career, I'm sure.
100%. And I think the average enhanced career anyway, generally speaking, you're talking probably maximum 10 years. If you're lucky and you're Dexter Jackson and these other guys, I'm talking guys who have not been natural for extended periods of time. They kind of started around, let's say, 5 years of training, around 24 to 25 years old, and did their thing. They're usually out of there by 35. They're usually out of it by 35. And
usually as well with the genetic elite side of things is that they probably use half the amount of what guys do who are in your local gym. Have extremely good genetics for bodybuilding, but also have extremely good genetics for drugs. Yes. And they have extremely good for genetics for their health markers within those drugs.
Yeah.
So basically, you can have someone who just basically takes a little bit of testosterone and gets all the problems that you wouldn't want from steroids.
Yeah.
You can have someone like, I think it was Nick Trigili on Bodybuilding and Bollocks, was saying that the day he quit bodybuilding was that he was like half an hour into his arm session, and he glanced across the gym Golds, and Dexter Jackson had literally walked into the gym. He took his top off. He started drinking a carb drink, and his arms just exploded. And it was like, I need to quit bodybuilding. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm training for half an hour. I'd like to get the best pump. And literally, he's taking one sip of his drink, and he looks like he's.
Yeah.
So it's like, look, there's going to be that genetic elite that way as well. But these are the kind of things that people don't understand, is the fact that, like, you've got, I said, not only genetics to. This is why you can have like someone who's genetically good for bodybuilding, but also doesn't process drugs very well, and also obviously then has all the health problems alongside with it. So it's a complete fucking lottery at 19 years old. And if you get all the problems very, very soon, quite quickly, then your bodybuilding days are done pretty much. You know, it's like, you know, unless you're getting, you know, the right advice from the right people and you're monitored by a doctor, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, you know, there's more than just kind of just throwing a bit in and seeing what happens. It's just stupid.
If you're serious about bodybuilding, you're right. You can't just throw it in and think what happens, because once you're done, it's like you say, you've got 7 years now to wait until you can compete as a natural. And unless you're going to do mock preps during that time, which, let's be honest, you're not going to get down to a level of body fat so you can continue to grow and improve your conditioning year on year like you would if you were actually competing. You're not going to do that. So you're going to lose so much ground when you come against guys who may be slightly smaller, but they're polished. We've spoken about this many times already on this pod and before we started recording. It's just, in the long run, you need to be, this to the young guys specifically, because the guys who've been there, done that, and they've trained and trained and trained, and they're very close to maximizing their potential, or they know the trajectory that their body's going. You know, based on your goals, what you want to get out of bodybuilding, whether this is something that needs to happen or not. But when like you say, when you're 19, 20, you don't know anything. You've been in the gym maybe 2 years, and even if you've been in the gym since you were 16, your body's not even naturally, like you said, your bones are still hardening. You're still becoming a man. There's so much that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, exactly.
To be throwing in these extra things.
It's time and things with bodybuilding. It's always going to be a case of time, and that's what people do. You know, they just want to look like the favorite guys on Instagram and on, you know, social media platforms, and well, I guess it used to be the magazines back in the day, but do you know what I mean? Where obviously that you want to look like that now, but you know, a lot of the guys who probably have the best physiques like probably aren't 20. I mean, let's take, I mean, apart from the odd few people, Phil Heath probably being a bit of an exception. Most Mr. Olympias are probably around your 35 to 40 years old. So if that tells you anything of how good maybe these guys were still, I mean, Phil Heath, I said, is a bit of an exception, and maybe some of the classic guys now as well are a bit younger. But like, you know, arguably, I think they say, like, you look at, I think Jay Cutler like maybe retired at 35, but he probably was bodybuilding like at the top level for maybe like 8 to 10 years before he actually won the Olympia. So it's like, it's time.
Yeah, Jay started young and left young. Lee Haney started young, left young. It happens from time to time, but like I say, the time frame is true to itself. 10 years, generally speaking, at the top of the game. Yes, you can stay and hang around, but you start to see people dwindle off a little bit. I just watched the New York Pro, and Max Charles wasn't even in the top 5. To me, that's insane. But then he's also put himself forward to do the Master Olympia, and again, he must know his. Obviously, this is also a living. Like, he wants to put himself in shows and get paychecks. So why not? Anyway, I'm not saying he shouldn't have done it, but you get to a point where you're like, right, I'm getting to a stage now where the things I was doing before, the way I could look before, even if I nail all my variables, I'm not going to look that way anymore.
Yeah, it's getting progressive. I mean, it happens to everyone at different times. I mean,
of course.
I think, like, you know, Dexter and people like Kamal and stuff could be in their 50s, and that's really rare. Really, very, very rare. So you've got a bit of a sweet window, probably between 35 and 40, where I am now. Where it's kind of like, you know, you're going to get maybe some of your best years. So
Samson Dowda is a good one. I know he started training late, so he's still fresh, but even he is obviously closer to your age, I believe, 35, 36-ish. So as everyone can see, like, who know him, and most people should, is he's peaking now. And yes, it's late, but I know he started late, so he's slightly different. Dexter's been bodybuilding since he was about 18, I think. Naturally as well, obviously. He was competing early. I've seen pictures of Dexter. So he's an anomaly. He's an anomaly. But generally speaking, yeah. Couple more things before we go. So I don't know which one to ask first. Seeing as we're on bodybuilders anyway. So you're obviously a big fan of the sport. I'm a big fan of the sport. From sitting from a natural side of it, sitting from just a non-IFBB pro side of it, let's say. These guys that I look at on Nick Strength and Power or the live streams, they're not my peers. So I can be a fan and I'm just a fan. Like if I'm like, oh my God, that's Ramon Dino. Oh my God, that's Chris Bumstead. It's like, okay, they don't know who I am, nor can I compete with them because I'm not reached that level yet. You are that level now. So when you see these guys, not even necessarily backstage, but you just see these guys doing their thing online or you see them at shows and whatever, have you adopted a mindset now how you may have had when you were a DFAC pro and been like, right, Dave is great. I know you and Dave are friends as well, but Dave is great. Nathan's great, but we need to stand on stage together, so I need to go and win. Or do you just see them and kind of just like, okay, they're great. They've been doing this a while. They're at the top of the game at the moment. And not just I'm happy to be here, but are you still kind of in like awe of it almost? Like they're a step ahead? How do you feel about it?
Oh, good question. Mixed bag. I go through a bit of an array of emotions all the time with it. Okay. So I look, you know who Robert Timms is?
Yes.
Okay, right. So you look at someone like Robert Timms, who is like 6 foot, saw him in person compete at Texas. And the most freakiest thing I've ever seen on like a guy on a frame. Like he looked like an absolute jumbo jet in a quarter turn pose.
Yeah.
And you're like, that level of width is like, you know, it's, if that is where classic physique is going, then I stand no chance. But then you also then have maybe the other side of it where some of the slightly smaller, prettier bodybuilders are getting a bit more rewarded. I mean, like someone like Urus is probably quite a good example because he has a ton of tissue, but he also hasn't carried the size of someone like Robert Timms or like that Lord Jones guy, where it's obviously like, but obviously he's placing higher in Olympia. So my thoughts are, if I can find the right judges on the right day, I'll maybe be rewarded for a bit of a throwback with the shape and the waistline and kind of like the overall conditioning. However, what's really nice about being on this side of things is that I still have no level of expectation for shows. And I'm not just like bullshitting like I was when it was like 2020, where it's like, I believe I can win a pro card. I believe I can get to the Olympia before I'm 40, right? I generally do believe that. However, I might have to do a show in Kazakhstan to go and get one. I might have to go to Alaska and where there's two people in the show, but like, I don't care. Like if I get to Olympia with my boyhood dream, right? But my thoughts are really is that the sport is evolving so much with classic physique with the like men's physique is. I mean, men's physique is a different planet of guys now they are open bodybuilders with board shorts on. Like they are ridiculously big, probably bigger than some of the classic guys, to be honest. I mean, we're talking people over 100 kilos on stage kind of thing, right? So there's that. So there's the one side of me that is like, what are you even doing here? Other side of me where it's like, look, I probably could get a good favorable look in if I turn up 100%. But I'm also, as I said, I have no level of expectation. I'm doing 4 shows this year, big shows. It's great for coaching. It's great because I love to follow all the bodybuilding side of things anyway and be a part of all that. Like, I can't tell you, the feeling was absolutely incredible. I had all them problems with my flights in 2021 with the COVID side of things. I had to be in Dubai for 16 days clear, and I tried to fly on day 16, so it technically had to be 17 days clear. So I tried to fly at 8 o'clock at night. I couldn't fly till 3 o'clock in the morning the next day. So I flew there, when I landed in Tampa, I had to fly to Miami because the flight was no flight to Tampa. So I drove 4 hours and I landed at check-in as people like Ian Valier and stuff were checking in to do the Tampa Pro Show.
Mm.
And it was just in absolute kind of like, I actually can't believe that I'm here.
Yes.
So it was like, yes, there was kind of like a little bit of kind of fanboy in me for sure. But I also knew that I was very confident that I was putting out a very, very good physique. And I think that's half the battle. If you're in shape, your level of confidence is always going to be, like, you might be small and you might, but it was kind of like, look, I mean, I always say to people, like, I am always far more bothered about doing something like a guest posing than I am an actual show.
Right.
Because when you're not in shape, you feel like you're like, you feel like you're a fraud. You feel like
you
like,
feel exposed. Yeah, you feel exposed. Yeah.
So, like, to obviously be going to them shows and things like that, I said, I have no expectation on how well I will do if I'm in the second, third call outs all the time still. But I look immensely improved. I will be okay with that. And 100%, like last time I did shows, it increased my client base.
Yeah.
It is something, obviously, I'm able to travel all around the world and do the shows that I want to do. And, like, to like just pop around from kind of Texas to Tampa to Vancouver. It's like to go and do all those shows. It's like, if I had ever told myself when I was 20, like, this is what you'll be doing in your like late, I would have bit your hand off for that deal. So for me, really, yes, I'm very happy to be a part of it all, but I'm also kind of like, I would like to get a favorable look in at a show as well.
Of course. I think you're capable, 100%. I think you're capable. I think you proved you're capable when you turned pro and then you went to Tampa amongst 40 guys and finished top, what would that be? Top 10, top 12?
14th out of 40, yeah.
Right. Out of 40.
Yeah.
Like, that's you've proven that you belong up there, in my opinion, at least. And yeah, it'll only get better from now. You dust off the cobwebs when you go the first time. It's all new, I'm sure as confident and as happy as you are to be there, there's still going to be a little bit more nerves than there will be this time around. This time around, you know what you're getting into. When you turn up and you see a big guy, you're like, I expected to see a big guy here. I've seen it before. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's good. It's good. It's good. I'm excited for you, man. I'm very excited. I saw your post. You've planned in, or even tentatively planned in 4 shows.
Yeah.
Okay. What shows are they?
So Vancouver is in 8 weeks. So we fly to Las Vegas in 3 weeks' time.
Nice.
Quite frankly, just to kind of tell why I'm going to Las Vegas is because Vancouver was extremely expensive to stay there.
Right.
Looking at about $2,500, $3,000 for an apartment for a month. Vegas is like 1,400 quid.
Right. Okay.
I know the gyms in Vegas. You've got the Dragon's Lair. You've got Elevation. You've got the new one where Lee Priest and Cutler and that trains. I always forget the name of it now. And you've got Powerhouse Gym, which is Iris Carlin, Hide Yamagishi's gym.
Yes. Yeah.
Got a really nice mixed bag of gyms. I don't know what the gyms are like in Vancouver. I'm sure some of them will be pretty good, but it was more of a reliable factor. So we basically go and do the rest of the prep in Las Vegas, rent an apartment as we always do. Short flight over to Vancouver, stay there for about a week, do the peak week and stuff out there pretty much. Then Chicago is the week after that. So I basically can peak for Vancouver, cruise in for Chicago, then there's 2 weeks off, and then there's Tampa, Florida, 2 weeks off, then there's Texas. And that might be my last one of the year. I believe my missus wants to do a show in Italy this year. Nice. So there is a pro show in Italy as well, which I might jump into, which is 3 weeks after that. It would all really depend. If the first 3 that I do, I'm nowhere, I'm definitely not. I'll do Texas because obviously all the Gasp and Better Bodies are situated there. And then I'll wrap it up for the season, and I'll probably have a good 12 months off just from obviously dieting to then obviously be able to then maybe go again next year, because when time's ticking, the body clock's ticking. So obviously said I want to kind of just enjoy competing. I really enjoy being on a diet. I far more enjoy in season than I do off season, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I just, I'm more productive.
Okay.
Like the how I this kind of like energy level and stuff like that, and training is flying at 8 weeks out. Like, I mean, we probably when we come and train together before back in was it 2021?
2020.
2020. I remember you saying to me then, like, you don't seem like you're 2 weeks out from a show. I'm like, yeah,
No. You buried me with that arm session. I'll tell you that right now. I took some bits from that. I still use them now.
good. So yeah, for me, as I said, I'm I'm not kind of grumpy bodybuilder.
Mm.
Bags of energy. Love being on prep. Love the kind of the graft of it, really all. And yeah, so for me, obviously, I will try and get some shows under my belt now, but before I'm 40. I mean, I would like to do a bunch of pro shows. Obviously, finances all being well, cheap. But as many opportunities as I can to compete in the biggest shows that I can find, pretty much. So, and I said maybe I'll go do one in Kazakhstan somewhere at some point or something. But for the time being, just happy living the dream, so to speak, mate.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I think you seem very present in the journey, which is maybe something that comes of age. Maybe it's something that just comes of experience of competing as much as you've competed. I don't know. But that's one thing that why I say I enjoyed my shows in 2019 more than I enjoyed the show in 2021. But my prep and the journey of my prep in 2021, I was so much more present. And I took everything that happened and I was present. And when I think about it now, I have way more memories of 2021 than I do of 2019. Obviously, 2019 is further back, but it's just because I wasn't thinking about how bad prep was and this and that and the things I can't do. It was just about being present and appreciating the process, appreciating what it is I had like to go into. I went into that prep and I went into that show knowing I was getting that sword. I knew it. I just knew it. Like every training session was, I need to do this because if I do this, I'm getting that sword. And it was no waver. There was no wavering. It was, I'm getting that sword. Whereas 2019, it was, oh, it depends who turns up. I don't know if I'll win this. I don't know if I'll win that. And you're just not present. You're worrying more than you're enjoying.
Yeah.
And I just think your energy going into these IFBB Pro shows, it's a big task to do it. But you seem so just, yeah, I'm enjoying it. Obviously, I'm working hard. Obviously, I have expectations and goals to get out of this. This isn't just a jolly up, but I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy myself.
The one thing I'll say is that, and I definitely don't condone this, but if you have ever done preps like I did in 2008, 2009, and 2010, more 2009 and 10, to be honest, I was trying to make lightweights as really a middleweight bodybuilder.
Right.
So I was doing 2 hours of cardio on the stairs, morning and night was an hour a piece.
Yeah.
Working full-time job, PTing on top, and 50 grams of carbohydrates a day.
Yeah.
So if you have ever done a lengthy prep of that quickly, anything that you do from this point on, like I'm eating 400 to 500 grams of carbs a day still now.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's as like I could do it standing on my head. It's
Yeah.
still hard because it's all relative to body fat levels, but I think if anyone's ever kind of done, it's kind of one of them ones where it's a kill or cure. I have a client called Gareth who lives up in Cardiff area. And I am only just convincing him to get back on stage now after the absolutely horrific prep that he did with, another coach like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm going to mentally break you to be like, that's your experience of prep.
Mm-hmm.
I probably couldn't continue to do it how I obviously did before. I obviously just kind of got the work done right, but you do back-to-back shows where it was like I put everything into that prep in 2009, and then I had to then go to Worlds.
Yeah.
So I had to diet for another 7 weeks after I completely had already spent 2 to 3 months of 50 grams of carbs, 2 hours of cardio a day.
Yeah.
And then obviously then do it again for 2010 because my body wasn't responding. I had to then go, oh, this is what you do. This is how you diet for shows.
Yeah.
So, I should have said I'd probably been around a sort of 75, 76 kilo bodybuilder, and I was having to get to like under 72, under 71 to make weight.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's just like, it was just, it was miserable day in, day out. You wake up in the morning, like, I don't know how I'm going to get through the day today. And you just did it that for like 3 months straight. So it's like, do you know what I mean? Anything now is just like, I'm like, well, shit, it's not that bad. Do you know what I mean? Nothing's as bad as that. So it's like, I don't complain. I just kind of get on with it. And it's like, I think mindset is an awful lot of it as well. I think people who are on prep, there is obviously a level to it when you are actually in really good condition. But if you spend all your time around people who are kind of like tired and lazy, and people who are like, let's say, on prep, and I've had this before, on prep and complaining about being on prep all the time, you get roped into this mentality of kind of feel sorry for yourself. I'm on a diet. I've got low calories. I've got to take these boxes of leaflets down the stairs, and I don't know where I'm going to find the energy to do it. Like I do these little things now where I trick myself into believing I have more energy than I do.
Yeah.
So I used to get to the front of the gym. I would sit there with my coffee in the car, my pre-workout, staring at the wall, thinking, I don't want to go in just yet. I just want to stay in the car. I want to do this. And that's kind of like how I used to be. Now, when I get out to the gym, I bounce straight out of the car. I'm like, right, I'm not sitting here worrying about what I need to go and do. I just get up and go do it. So like the mindset of like tricking yourself to being like, right, well, I just don't sit around. Like I don't sit still. I go and do what I do rather than kind of, procrastinate and feel sorry for yourself because you've only got, 200 grams of carbs to eat today kind of thing. So
yeah, no, I 100% hear that. And I 2021 was a lot easier as well because me and Opio trained together for most of my prep, almost all of my prep. Obviously, we train together often anyway because we're friends and we live close by. But just having that energy around me, it just helped. It just helped because I don't really need accountability. I'm accountable to myself anyway. But it's just more having just that. Like I said, I prepped for 36 weeks and I felt great for 34. Like it was perfectly fine. The last 2 weeks, obviously, you deplete, you do this, you do that, blah, blah, blah. That shit, I'll tell you right now, I tried to, don't get me wrong, my depletion sessions are good, but I fucking hate it. I only like it when I'm in the gym because you're just sitting there otherwise, just tired and hungry.
My missus gave me a really good analogy for that one.
Yeah.
She prepped her last year for her shows. No, 2 years ago. And she's like, I feel like a scooped out pumpkin today. It's like, basically, you're just like hollow. You just no connection in your muscle. You kind of like, I haven't experienced, until someone experienced that kind of feeling of being completely depleted and really low body fat. It's like, you're training, but like, you're not really getting a pump, but you just feel hollow. You just feel empty and hollow.
Yes.
And it's obviously like, you get through the session and it's like, okay, I'm really glad I got through that. But no one would, I mean, that's how I spent every day on prep in 2009 and 10.
Yes, horrible.
I mean, you burn through your 50 grams of carbs in the first set of dumbbell presses. Nothing for the rest of the day. You've just got protein. So it's like, calorie. It wasn't like it was massively high protein and 50 grams of carbs. It was like just low calorie. It was like, so if you kind of do that, that's kind of how you feel every day. So
yeah, I'm lucky my first prep was with a coach because if I had done it on my own, I would have done a similar thing. And listen, you learn from it. Look where you are now. Like you said, you've anything you now approach in a prep now is easy. So there's value in it, and you took value from it, which is why you're successful. And this is the defining factor in people who are successful and not successful. And in my opinion, it extends from sports to life, from life to your marriage, from marriage to whatever. You need to learn from things. No one's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. If you don't learn from it, it's a failure. If you learn from it, it's a lesson. And this is what people I don't think hang on to. People go through things. Some of them are hard, some of them are easy. Some people's lives are easier than others. Some people's experience in bodybuilding is easier than others. Like I said earlier, if you're a genetic freak who can be 10 weeks out, eat a burger and lose weight, by all means, do what you want to do. But the day that you get beat by somebody who put in the actual work to maximize their potential, when you let, for example, Chris McCready beat somebody who should be genetically superior because he outworked you and he hits every variable, you're not going to be happy about it. Because you were sitting 10 weeks out eating burgers. So you just need to, perspective anyway, perspective for the young guys, perspective for the guys who are competing this year as well. We're not quite into the BNBF season yet. We're getting there. I know loads of guys who are 10 weeks out. UK DFBA shows, I think, a similar time, maybe slightly early. They kick off.
Yeah, I've got a few people doing a one in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay. Where's that? Northern Ireland, or is that UK based? Not Northern Ireland, sorry. Is it Ireland?
Yeah, I think.
Where?
Rugby.
Oh, right, okay.
That I think it's towards Coventry, is it? I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah. It's far from me. It's far from me, but yeah. Are you still in Burton?
No, mate, Carlisle.
Okay, I know Carlisle. It's on the edge of Scotland. Well, yeah, kind of on the edge of Scotland.
Border of Scotland, yeah, pretty much.
Whenever I go, I used to work in Scotland a lot, and I used to drive through Carlisle. And I always used to stop at Carlisle to Carlisle services to put gas in again. Okay, yeah, I saw your Ultraflex a couple of times recently. Are you down there? Is that like your home gym when you're home?
No, not all. So I train at Body Tech most of the time, which is like old school bodybuilding gym, which has been there like for like 30, 40 years.
Nice.
It's got like some proper old school stuff in there. Kind of can't beat it, you know, it's sort of just like rough and ready.
Yeah.
But I am working in Newcastle up at a gym called Axis Fitness, which is obviously from my other company.
Yeah.
It was a very, very short-term thing, but Ultraflex Durham is about 25 minutes away from my accommodation.
Nice.
So I'm getting in there, you know, 6:30 in the morning, getting my sessions and stuff done, get my HIIT done, and then obviously then off to work for the rest of the day. So not quite the life of the online coach of just training at midday.
No.
Training on a few meals. It's like I'm just having to get that done routine wise, but it's really like, you know, rewarded and you know, it's I am quite you have to get used to training that time in the morning. And don't get me wrong, I'm probably better at training mid afternoon because your body's more awake. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like needs must really. So
yeah, you gotta get it done. You gotta get done the stuff to do. Right. Yeah, we've been on here a while. What's the time? 2 o'clock. We started recording probably about 12:30-ish, 20 past 12-ish. Yeah, that's probably about right. Bob, I know you're a very popular guy. I know you don't jump on just anybody's podcast. So I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today. In my opinion, it's been very, very insightful. I hope the guys watching have taken a lot from it. Is there anything you want to promote, speak about before you sign off?
Let's just give a quick shout out to the sponsors. Always good. I'm not sure when this will go out, but Gasp and Better Bodies have the summer sale on at the moment, up to 80% off.
When's that done? When's that end?
I think it's probably next week.
Next week, end of next week?
Probably, yeah.
I'll probably get this out by Tuesday.
Okay, cool. So that should catch the tail end of that. You just use code Waterhouse at checkout. Give me my kit back. But it's like up to 80% off on stuff like that, on the summer stuff. Thanks Sup Shack, where obviously there's a little gym in Carlisle who now obviously have a really good supplement store. So they stock all ranges of brands of everything, which is great to have a sponsor. You know, you're not just sort of stuck with one brand, kind of where they've got something that's good and something that's rubbish. You get the spectrum of using what you want. And of course, Unrivaled AGF, which obviously, if you know, you know. That's what all the time use.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you want actually like a decent protein powder, which you'll actually absorb a good amount of protein from, that's why everybody is so hot and obviously kind of raging on about it, because I said it's to do with the absorption rate of what you actually get out of your protein. So it's a very, very costly product which they make, and they sell it cheaper to basically give people like an actual good protein powder to use. So flavor profiles and stuff are amazing, and products are amazing. So obviously that's just something I do. Obviously Vicky coaches me, who owns Unrivaled, but I have used that ever since they started stocking Unrivaled, shipping it over to Dubai. Obviously, like there's quite a lot of people who are sponsored by other companies, who still use AGF and buy AGF for a reason.
Love it.
So that's obviously like a genuine plug for them, because I said it's an absolute game changer with things like that. So
it's the best stuff, man.
So yes, so thanks to Unrivaled and everything as well.
Cool. Like I say, thank you again. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe. I've got a couple more guests lined up in the next few weeks. Because I've been doing some training videos as well. Yeah, check those out as well. I've got a couple training videos posted. I've got some more coming out. I'm breaking up the podcast with training videos. So I've got some more podcast episodes coming out over the next month, definitely. So yeah, stay tuned.
Where can we go on and listen to the podcast?
So at the moment, I'm just on YouTube. I'm trying to build my following here. Once I get a few more listeners, I'll definitely be putting them on other podcast platforms, so you can do audio only and you can travel and listen to it rather than having to get the visuals as well, which is a lot easier for most people.
Or just buy YouTube Premium, bro, then you can listen
Yeah,
to it.
all that. Yeah. Get YouTube Premium, then you can listen to it when your phone locked, I think, can't you? So yeah. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it and see you guys next time. Cheers.
Thanks, Ron.